Hello again. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Bible Book Club. We are going to be into Exodus now in our journey through the Old Testament. So I just want to say something first off about last video. I watched it for a little bit. First off, it's too long. I'm not gonna be doing 40-minute videos anymore. I could just feel my energy draining throughout the time, and frankly, the subject matter, I was running a little bit hot, perhaps, and I don't like finding myself in that kind of mindset. So I'm going to do my best to keep the videos to shorter segments from here on out, and also do my best to control how I feel about what I'm reading through. So let's jump right in to Exodus here. Let's see what page am I on? Okay, so Moses' lineage is vague, very vague. All it says, so this is basically Exodus. So there's a new king that comes, a new pharaoh that comes in. It says we begin here with a new pharaoh, not knowing Joseph, and the children of Israel being fruitful and becoming mighty. Uh, Basically, it starts off, Pharaoh wants midwives to kill all male Hebrew children. But the midwives feared God and did not follow Pharaoh's order. So, getting back here to what I was starting with Moses' lineage, his lineage is very vague. It says that he was a son of Levi and he married a daughter of Levi. So the son of Levi married a daughter of Levi, and she bore him Moses. She kept him 90 days and then sent him down, the river in a basket, as the lore goes. Another interesting thing, not to disparage this story, but there are other instances of godlike religious figures being found in a basket of reeds floating down the river. I want to say Tammuz from Babylon is one of them. Don't Not 100% on that one, but I do know for sure that there are other stories of this exact situation of what happens with Moses here. So Exodus 2:10. Let's see here. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. Okay, so basically we see here, so we have the order from Pharaoh to kill all newborn males of the Hebrews, essentially. So, who finds Moses floating down the river but Pharaoh's daughter? So Pharaoh's daughter, it's pretty close to Pharaoh. You would think. So Pharaoh's daughter keeps Moses, grows up, in the house of the Egyptian princess. That's a pretty big deal. It's pretty high up, and especially considering apparently Pharaoh wants to kill all male Hebrew children, but he's going to allow his daughter to keep Moses. It seems that's amazing. So we see that little play out there. Let's see here. So we don't hear anything, we don't read anything of Moses growing up. The only thing I can recall is the Charlton Heston movie, Moses. That's a great movie, in terms of acting, good actors, portraying a story. So essentially, like I said, we see the contradiction here. The daughter is able to keep Moses. Let's see here, Exodus 2:24. What do we have here? And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So essentially, this is the end of chapter 2, Exodus. We hear the Egyptians are apparently working the Israelites very hard, and God remembers his covenant. That implies that God forgot. So God remembers his covenant and promises to, hears their cries. So let's see here. So we see Moses leaving Egypt. Moses marries and has a child and is a shepherd. Moses speaks with God after seeing the burning bush. This story. So let's see, Exodus 3:8. God promises a lot of other people's land to the Israelites. Let's read that. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land, and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. So, sorry, I feel like such an idiot when I read this book. Like, it's so simple in terms of the words. It's like see, Jane, run, dog. It's just so easy that it's almost difficult, as strange as that sounds. So that's a lot of people. So that's the land that is promised to the Israelites, all of the Canaanites and the Amorites and the Hivites and all that good stuff. So let's see here, 3:14 Exodus. Moses asks what to call God, and God says, "I am that I am." The famous "I am that I am" reference. Let's see. Skipping ahead to Exodus chapter 4. This is a story that I think everyone has a pretty good idea on, just simply because of that movie. And this is a unbelievably popular story account, whatever you want to call it. Exodus 4:21-22. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, Thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto thee, Let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn. So here we see the firstborn. This is one of the plagues of Egypt, or this is just one of the threats of the Lord to Pharaoh. Just interesting that when the Lord says, Israel is my son, even my firstborn, what about, Adam? What about Noah? It's just, I think we'll see. I've heard that you see later on, God says, or the Lord says in the New Testament that Jesus is his first son. So you can't have many. You can only have one first son. You can only have one of, first of everything. So it's fact. Let's see here. So essentially, Exodus chapters 5-11 are the plagues, the famous plagues of Egypt. And this got into some interesting topics for me. So Exodus 5-11, all the plagues of Egypt. So here's some questions. Why does God harden Pharaoh's heart over and over and over and over, literally every time? God hardens Pharaoh's heart and hardens the heart of Pharaoh's helpers, and essentially rains down plagues. If God can harden a heart, that implies that the heart can also be softened by God. So why not soften the heart, God? Instead of making the river bloody, and I don't know if there's any historical account of the Nile turning red. I think there. See, that's where we get into some interesting points. Sorry for going off on a tangent here, but let's see. Is there historical record? So this is the question. So that's done for chapter Exodus. That's where we're going to leave off for today. Chapter 12 begins with what Hebrews were supposed to do in terms of Passover and the kind of rules. So we're going to stop right here. Excuse me. So I asked myself, is there any historical record of these occurrences within Egyptian history? And I'd always heard no. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any of this happened. And the Egyptians kept immaculate records, and they had all this stuff. And the more I research into it, the more I see that's absolutely not true at all. Let's see here. First, I also want to mention, go off to just tangent. I want to start mentioning this in the beginning of the videos. I will leave a link in the description below for the PDF version of whatever book that we are talking about. So, for instance, I'm obviously going to be leaving the Exodus PDF. I couldn't find a really good one like I did for Genesis. This one's it's good, but it's not quite the King James version, but it's pretty exact from what I saw. So you can follow along with me if you'd like by using that PDF. So that is in the description below. I also am going to be linking a video by Crow777. He's an awesome YouTube channel that I subscribe to, and I think he does a great job in terms of talking about history and how much we can really trust history. As history is a lie agreed upon, as the quote goes. Another great one is, history is written by the winners, and I believe Napoleon said something along those lines. So basically, there's becoming a lot of evidence by some scholars that are showing, this history that we've been told is not quite as accurate as we may have been led to believe. And a good example of this is this Egyptian history. And apparently, there are some scholars out there that are wanting to kind of adjust Egyptian history by hundreds of years in some instances. And there are some that are these people are both, some Christians, some non-denominational, some not, but from major universities in very high places, positions. So I'm just going to read one of these. This is from Dr. Colin Renfro, professor of archaeology at Cambridge. This is in reference to a book. So this disquieting book draws attention to a crucial period in world history and to the very shaky nature of the dating, the whole chronological framework upon which our current interpretations rest. The existing chronologies for the crucial phase in human history are in error by several centuries, and that, in consequence, history will have to be rewritten. Another great quote here by Sir Alan Gardner, an authority on Egyptian history. What does that mean? But I have looked into Egyptologists. This is true. And here's what Alan Gardner says. Even when full use has been made of the king lists and such subsidiary sources as have survived, the indispensable dynastic framework of Egyptian history shows lamentable gaps and many a doubtful attribution. What is proudly advertised as Egyptian history is merely a collection of rags and tatters. That's pretty strong right there. So essentially just what I'm saying is, when I looked into whether or not these stories were true, there are some interesting, there's no hard and objective fact, obviously. This is that 2,000 years ago, or more than that, as we're told. So this is 4,000 years ago, apparently. There's no objective truth that you can find, but there are some interesting kind of correlations that you can definitely tie together. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much again, and stay tuned for Exodus chapter 12. Have a great day, and remember to be as nice as you can out there. Thank you.